Let's move on with the next topic. Well, today the buzzwords are pharma leaders, health, and digital health, not to forget. And we heard a lot about that in the previous address. In the digital social media age, the healthcare conversation have been democratized, and relationship between healthcare providers and patients has shifted. Patients are no longer the passive recipient of information and advice on how to manage their conditions. They are going into armed with information from Dr. Google and ready to challenge the medical experts. For an influencer, patient opinion leaders have become as important as medical key opinion leaders, and they are found everywhere. So even in the majority of the markets where direct-to-consumer prescription drug advertising is banned, engaging with patients on disease-level issues leads to more informed point of prescription conversations with a direct benefit for pharma. May I please have on stage the next speaker who is going to address on patient India at 70. India at 70, patient first, Vedhish. Vedhish is Vice President, South Asia and Managing Director at India GlaxoSmithKline Pharmaceuticals Limited. He is a successful senior business leader with over 28 years of diverse experience in healthcare and FMCG domains. He has a strong track record of leadership development and building leading brands, franchisees across various categories and multicultural locations in Asia-Pacific region. Vedhish is widely recognized for chairing various initiatives with industry bodies in India and in the Asia-Pacific region. Strategic MOU with China Communist Party School, India Health Insurance Development, and leading healthcare agenda in APAC summits are noteworthy. May I please have on stage Anna Swami Vedhish for India at 70, patient first. India at 70, patient first, Mr. Anna Swami Vedhish. Keep the applause going for the next speaker, Mr. Anna Swami Vedhish. We can do a little better, guys, with applause. Yes. Over to you.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks very much. And I believe that whenever there is a conference related to patient, I generally accept, not from any other point of view. I think in India, this is one very important issue. We as a healthcare ecosystem have to do far better than what is happening in the rest of the world. So I thought it's a good idea to share some of my thoughts related to the concept of patient at 70. India has gained independence in 70. So what I will do is that what has changed and what needs to get changed, and what are the disruptions that are happening in the area of healthcare and in the area of patient care per se. So first and foremost, let me start with this. This is the basis of what we do in healthcare. Hippocrates, the father of medicine, if you really look at it, he is known for, obviously everybody takes Hippocrates' oath when you become a doctor. And the primary objective of Hippocrates' oath is do no harm to patient. Now fundamentally, though everybody understand that's what we need to be doing, kindliness, care and concern, which is the hallmark of Hippocrates, do we really uphold this in everything what we do in serving the patient? First and foremost, India, health system in India. So we've made a noteworthy progress. We have eradicated multiple diseases, including smallpox. polio and guinea worm disease in the last 70 years. HIV infection and AIDS-related deaths have dropped significantly. India has emerged as a hub for generics, drug manufacturing, large public health infrastructure, vibrant private healthcare, and significant improvement in mortality and morbidity over 50 years. And when India gained independence, at that time, longevity was about 45 or 46. Today, we are talking about 68. So quite obviously, what we have done in the healthcare for the patient has been very good. But the important thing is to do is that India still struggles across dimensions. One is 6 trillion economic loss impact from NCDs by 2030. This is an estimate. 75% of the population still with no health insurance. 2 million gap in bed capacity. 200,000 actually, 315 million population affected by tropical disease. 3 million urban diabetes patients who receive adequate treatment out of 38 million. Less than 1% of delivery providers are accredited. Today, so many providers do take care of the patients, but many of them are not accredited. 1.3% of GDP is the public spending on healthcare as compared to some of the developing economies around 10%. And rapid change in consumer mindset as to how the healthcare need to be consumed. The old healthcare system was revolving around 3 pieces. One is patients, physicians, and payers. And the payers are none other than the government. There are only 2 people, primarily patients and physicians. And it was revolving around communicable disease. And the government has done a great job of managing that at a point of time. With non-communicable disease going at a great breakneck speed, now this ecosystem is evolved into a significant healthcare system, which I will show it in a couple, next slide. You will see a conflicting interest. And you have to see that if the ecosystem, members of the ecosystem don't work together, you're going to see a significant compromise on the interests of the patient. The new healthcare system for the new disease profile, you have payers, you have providers, and if you can see various aspects of it turning out into an evolving health environment of physicians, diagnostic tools, health plans, pharmacies, digital medical records, public health managers. And look at the way in which now the healthcare system is emerging, and you have a patient at the center. But the critical part that we need to look at, each one of them have a conflicting interest. And many of them work in isolation. And particularly in India, if you look at a payer operates in a completely different expectation when it comes down to how to serve the patients. First and foremost, health insurance don't even have an understanding of standard treatment protocols. And these are all run by insurance managers, not by the doctors, not by people who understand healthcare. And even the health insurance ministry reports into, not to the health ministry, but report into finance ministry. Now, if you really look at the doctors who are the physician community, they report into a ministry, which is a standalone ministry, which is called the MCI. They operate completely individually. Providers, there is no specific ministry at all. They all operate independently, except the government hospitals. Private providers don't have any ministry at all. They operate with not much of an oversight. They have their own oversight mechanisms. And similarly, policymakers operate only with the interest of so-called the population with the election in mind. And when it comes down to patients, the consumer rights, you have to go to consumer society to deal with your patient interests. And the consumer society does not even understand what is healthcare. So you do have set of members in the ecosystem who don't even understand each other, how they're affecting the patient. So we should aspire for a massive shift in healthcare. First and foremost, we need to have an access to care continuum. When somebody with a diabetes come into the fold of being a diabetic patient, right from that till the end of life, today, this diabetic patient is being operated on an ad hoc basis. There is no continuity of care on what needs to get done. There is no integrated approach to diabetes as an example. It could be the same with thyroid, or it could be the same with any other chronic disease. And if you really look at role of government and regulators, on an ad hoc basis, they come in and then manage it as a knee-jerk reaction to a situation. Role of technology and medicines, like Rajendra was talking about, what government is doing in terms of how to bring the technology. There's a great sense of understanding of what the technology can do, but still it is not integrated into totally integrated approach to healthcare. Transparent and ethical engagement models. If you really look at it, engagement models on ethics and standards, MCI has got their own code, industry has got their own code, and similarly providers, and many of these codes have varying levels of divergence. To some extent there are convergence, but why can't someone have a similar code of conduct across the ecosystem which deals with the patient, because at the end of the day all of them are serving the patient. Multiple stakeholders need to collaborate to develop a holistic and sustainable healthcare with a transparent governance model. Now, unless otherwise, Singapore government has got an approach, what they call the health promotion ministry. But the question is, do we need to have a health promotion ministry who reports into Prime Minister, where all the other ministries report into one ministry, which is anything to do with the patient? Once you do that, then the chances of integrated approach to patient care is likely to make a difference, where the patient is not left in a lurch and searching for what should be the right approach to taking care of his or her disease. Today, there is no standardized protocol across the country as to what happens when a patient gets sick. What is the standard approach? Unlike in UK, there is a NHS where you are clearly know as a patient where to go and what it happens, what we call the patient treatment pathways. There is a fundamental need for a healthcare treatment pathway. If you don't have that, you are going to have a random healthcare treatment without any outcomes in place. So what you are seeing in India right now, it's relatively speaking healthcare on an episodic basis. So physicians are most closer to patient in delivering the care, and hence physicians in the room, you all have to take a very active role in making the shift. I find many of the physicians are not even in the room when policy decisions are made. Disruptions, I'm going to give a couple of examples so I understand what I'm talking about. If you look at disruption business models, now yesterday was a Ford, today is Toyota, and tomorrow is Sherry. If you look at department stores, Walmart internet retail, then what you are seeing today, more or less Amazon. Digital equipment, Dell and RIM, BlackBerry to Apple. Similarly, if you look at many of the technologies have changed dramatically from where it was and where it is today. I'm just giving an example in the area of healthcare. If you look at the enablers of disruption in healthcare, when a sick child is there, as you can see at the bottom, now skill required to follow the rules. Okay? If you can get the care closest to the child is the parent. Next to closest is the nurse and the family doctor and the specialist. On the other side, on the y-axis, if you look at clarity of the rules, now closest is home, next closest is office, outpatient, and focused hospital and general hospital. Today, we end up in doing where we go to specialist, family doctor, nurse, parent, and then sick child in terms of technology. Now, what happens if there is a disruption that takes place where the technology can change a patient, a parent with a sick child, where technology can enable them to get all this stuff done rather than going down this pathway? Let me give some example of what has happened. As an example here, you have a disruptive innovation hospital business model. People used to think all the treatment has to happen in a general hospital. Now, if you look at the way in which it operates, that you have a value proposition, don't know what's wrong, we can address it, problem you bring. So they go to general hospitals. Then you have a resources general hospital, there are processes exist, and there is a profit formula based on the general hospital function. Now you look at focused value chain hospital. Today, now, if you want to, what they call the focus factories of where hernia, if you want to get a hernia surgery done, there is specific hospitals who will do only hernia in terms of large volume, where your cost structure comes down, and it's already started happening, where you look at in ophthalmology, where this whole concept of everything need to be get done in one hospital, one center, is getting changed to a specialized and central. If you look at an example here, specialty was general hospital. I've just given, this is example from US, from Clayton Christensen, where you can see shoulder hospital doing a hernia repair just by changing the way they do in terms of volumes. Look at from $9 to $9,000 to $2,700 in shoulders hospital. So that's the way there are disruptions that are happening in Western world, and the same thing that you will see happening in India. Now, if you look at physician practice, now you're already seeing that happening in India. For example, in Mumbai, there are what we call the primary care hospitals. It's already taking quite a large number of load that are happening. Instead of going to a nursing home, you go to this primary care hospital. It's already started taking a big impact in Mumbai and in Delhi, where they call it, there's an example that I've given here as the minute clinic, where you go there, and as Rajendra was mentioning, 60 or 70% of the healthcare is a simple treatment where you don't need to go to a specialist or to a consultant. Now and then it's pretty cheap to get it done. So this is basically the kind of need that we exist in India. Unfortunately, unfortunately, the private industry is taking a big lead in that. Is there an opportunity for government to take a look at take an inspiration from what private hospitals are doing and strengthen the whole primary care as a basis of healthcare in India? You would find most of the healthcare problem can be solved. There will be conflicting interest in the changing ecosystem, need to work together and be part of the disruption in the interest of the patients. Couple of suggestions. First and foremost, each member in the ecosystem should participate, have a seat at the table when it comes down to policy of decision making, rather than sitting at the back seat and say somebody is making the decision in Delhi or in Mantralaya. Instead, we all should say that I need a seat at the table when a decision is being made, where we can play a big role in how the patients are being addressed. I think I'll give an example of how Rajendra is doing on the information, like what he talked about. I think there's a good amount of participation of various stakeholders in the development of the policy. And that's the only way that you will be able to do successfully, make a difference, whether it's health insurance. I am a member of the Health Insurance Council. I keep seeing by bringing in people from a different stakeholders, you can actually make a huge difference to the patient outcome. Rather than only a couple of people making a decision related to patient, there has to be a huge amount of interest from all the members in the ecosystem taking interest and wanting to do something about it rather than keep cribbing about how the healthcare system is pretty bad. Whether it's skill development and adoption of technology, medical education system, and create medical professional dealing with the different aspects of healthcare system. I work with the medical consultants of Mumbai, just creating an awareness, getting them involved in policy making. It has made a huge difference to them in the way in which they participate in policy making. So it's very important, rather than being not the victims, but the cause of the winds of change in the interest of the patients. Thank you very much.
So very interesting discussion. Many people got benefited from you. Thank you for coming over here. Can I have the memento, please? Just a minute, sir. The small token of appreciation for you coming over here. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vaidesh, for that very interesting and elucidative talk. Actually, when you went through the initial slide where you said, yes, we have made progress, one believed we have, which we have, and then came the gaps, which he brought out so beautifully. And I think he presented the gaps across multiple dimensions so very well, and spot on, spotted the fact that there's a significant increase in non-communicable diseases and the need to attend to it on top priority to benefit patients despite, as you rightly put it forward, conflicting paradigms, the lack of understanding in stakeholders across the board, in the ecosystem, and the dire need for a massive shift. I think that was brought through very, very well. And the need for multiple stakeholders to collaborate, build a holistic healthcare system, and take it forward. So thank you very much. That was beautifully summarized and brought forward. Our next speaker for the evening is Dr. Manoj Khanna, who is a founder and chairman, Enhance Clinics, and globally a renowned hair transplant and cosmetic surgeon. Dr. Manoj Khanna is internationally renowned and one of the best cosmetic surgeons of the country, who has successfully treated patients from over 65 countries for hair transplant and cosmetic surgery. With an extensive experience of 20 years in this domain, he has conducted over 4,800 hair transplants with great finesse. Having treated celebrities, film stars, and the who's who of the cricket fraternity, Dr. Khanna is a true epitome of excellence in his field of expertise and exudes exemplary professionalism and passion for work. He is associated with some of the famous global groups of beautification domain. He is a member of the International Society of Aesthetic Plastic Surgeons, life member and executive member of the Indian Association of Aesthetic Plastic Surgery, life member of the Plastic Surgeons of India, and founder member of the Association of Hair Restoration Surgeons of India. Dr. Khanna specializes in hair transplant and other cosmetic procedures like liposuction, tummy tuck, male breast reduction, breast augmentation, reduction in lift, and rhinoplasty, just to name a few. His in-depth knowledge in the realm of cosmetic beautification and umpteen successful procedures has won him innumerable accolades all over the world and in India as well. We must salute him that despite his fracture, he's actually come all over from Kolkata to be with us this evening. It's really, really commendable. Thank you very much, Dr. Khanna. I've heard you speak in a couple of forums before, you know that. He's a wonderful speaker and with tremendous insights in his field. So let's straight away go across to you. Dr. Khanna, it's all yours. Thank you.
A very good evening to the doyens of the industry. Well, there were too many presentations in that particular pen drive I gave them, and they've got something wrong. So I'm sure they'll correct them soon. And my topic for the evening, I'm of course very thankful to the organizers for having accommodated me, and it's been a pleasure to be here amongst all the various well-known names and faces in the pharma world. And my topic of presentation is cosmetic surgery in India, अच्छे दिन कब आएंगे? पता नहीं कब आएंगे, आएंगे नहीं आएंगे, कोशिश कर रहे हैं आएंगे. Hopefully they'll come. And this actually has been a very, very rampant topic of discussion for the last few years, with cosmetic surgery having become so very popular in India and all over the world in the last couple of decades, and the number of wrongs being done in the cosmetic surgery industry are something to really worry about. Cosmetic surgery became very popular in 1990s when the globalization set in. There was the cable television, the internet, travel became easy, and there was increased awareness of cosmetic surgery all over the world. Whatever happened in the US was known to India the very next minute, be it the demolition of the Babri Masjid to these beautiful dames becoming Miss World and Miss Universe. Well, it was sometime in the middle of 1990s that Aishwarya Rai and Sushmita Sen, God knows whether it was by virtue or by design, for many things in this industry do also occur by design, with India being a very big market, which was being seen all over the world, that they both were crowned the most beautiful woman in the world in the Miss Universe and Miss World contests. And that opened the panorama box of desire for cosmetic surgery in India. There was increased interest in improving looks, and the media had an explosion, you see, because of the internet had just come in 1990s, cable TV had come in, and all these things merged with the cosmetic surgery boom in the West. And cosmetic surgery was marketed very, very aggressively. The main thing about cosmetic surgery, there were no side effects. Patients can go home the same day. They don't need to stay in the hospital. And the results were more or less permanent, or they stayed for a long period of time. Interesting front page of a tabloid in Calcutta, a very well-known newspaper called The Telegraph, had this caption where it read that what Sushmita has close to the heart, Salman has to the head. For everybody knew that Sushmita Sen had got her proportions changed by some cosmetic surgery, and Salman Khan had held on to his hairline by a number of hair transplants. Hair transplantation, I'll just talk a few words about hair transplantation, since I was introduced as it being my forte. It's one of the commonest cosmetic surgery procedures in the world today in the male population. Actually, hair is a multi-dollar industry, billion-dollar industry. For one side, there are people who are losing hair and trying to get back their hair by getting a hair transplant, and women who are more and more conscious and are very upset by unnecessary hair in their face, in their lips, in their chin, and they want to get it removed. Of course, nobody wants to look bald. Whoever you are, wherever you are, nobody wants to look bald. And there can be a major difference without hair to your looks and your age appearance. To give you a small example here, two photographs. On your left is a very well-known person from India, Harsha Bhogle, and on the right is a Caucasian, a guy from New Zealand. Both are just around 50 at this time of this photograph. Both were 49. Fortunately, Indian skin is much thicker, literally much thicker, and so we age less. Wrinkling is much less a problem. Unlike the Caucasian, who has got so many wrinkles on the face, on the forehead, nasolabial folds, etc., and needs a lot of things to be done to look younger. And Harsha Bhogle did no surgery for the face, but did something for his hair And only one sitting of a hair transplant made him look 15 years younger. A change in his looks. He looks 15 years younger than what he used to look just by a sitting of a hair transplant. That's a big transformation for the Indian society, for Indian people. And probably he, along with this well-known celebrity Salman Khan, were the two people who propagated hair transplant the most for people when they would see them. They would see them almost every now and then. Harsha Bhogle on television for at least 200 days of cricket a year in India on television. And Salman Khan, so very well known for his movies and songs. And these guys can get their hair back. Anybody can get their hair back. And that's how hair transplant became very, very popular in India in the late 2010 decade, and now it's even more popular. Remember, when a person loses hair, there's a small theory of donor dominance where you lose hair from the front and the center. 97% of hair loss is for a hereditary factor, but nobody loses hair at the back. And even if somebody extensively bald like Anupam Kher has got hair at the back, because the hair at the back are permanent and they never fall, if you take hair from there and plant them anywhere, be it the head, the forehead, the nose, the eyes, the cheek, the eyebrows, it'll stay for life. And grow like normal hair, need haircuts, never fall. You can comb them, oil them, shampoo them, they'll stay for life. That is the scientific basis of hair transplant surgery. And these hair, as I said, they grow like normal hair, need haircuts, never fall, and are permanent. With all these factors having come in, and there's an increased demand of cosmetic surgery and hair transplantation, there are two different techniques which are commonly being used. The FUT technique and the FUE technique both have their advantages and disadvantages. The FUT technique, of course, is the golden standard. The technique stood out the test of time and has the best results. And you can transplant various number of hair follicles. In fact, I've done more than 5,000 hair transplants till now. It's an OPD procedure under local anesthesia. Come in the morning, throughout the surgery, you're awake, you know what's going on. At the end of it, just go home. There's no staying in the hospital. The results are permanent. And actually, a team of 4 to 8 people work together to get you that result. It's a procedure which must be enjoyed by the team only to be done well, because a long procedure of 7-8 hours, if you don't enjoy the surgery, you'll never do it well. And here's my team, which does it so very well. And different people have been benefited by this. Remember, there's no gap at the back. This gentleman, well known to you, Shastri, his wife ate my head. What's happened to the back from where you've taken the hair? What's happened to the back? Well, you can't see any gap at the back at all immediately after taking the hair. And even somebody who's can you play that video, please? I don't know if it plays or not. You can't see any gap at the back once the hair transplant is done. I don't think they'll be able to play the video here. And a few examples of a hair transplant: a young guy of 45, actually an Indian Air India pilot. Another young guy of 22, just 22, doesn't like to go to college because he looks like a grandfather. People call him Dadu. And here is he, after a hair transplant, looks so much younger and better. A guy who's 60 years old, actually he's the second person in the French consulate in Calcutta. A young doctor of 40 who's a dentist, who looks much older than his looks because of the absence of hair, which has been restored and makes him look much younger and brighter and fresher. Another young guy of 45, a good friend doctor of mine, a well-known laparoscopic surgeon in Calcutta, who's after a couple of hair transplants looks so very natural and so much better. Another doctor from Varanasi. Look at the naturalness of the hairline and the density in the front. Absolutely natural looking. A young guy of 22, once again, lost his hairline. No medicines will help him get his hair back unless he does a hair transplant. And here is after one single procedure. 28-year-old computer engineer. Well, somebody said it looks like the father and son combination. The difference is so stark. A guy who's from Mumbai, whose father took a minute or two to recognize him after 8 months when he saw him after the hair transplant. The difference is so very huge. And of course, some well-known people who I've had the pleasure of treating. My very good friend Arun Lal, a great guy and a very well-known cricketer and a commentator. Brijesh Patel, very well known for the long hair when he used to field in the covers during his heydays. Now he's lost most of it. Fortunately, some of it restored. Of course, Yusuf Pathan, you've been seeing last year, who looks so very different after a sitting of a hair transplant. And of course, my brand ambassador, Harsha Bhogle, who's really been inspirational and probably being so very helpful in getting me to where I am today. Women also can be benefited. Like you see a young girl who's actually a medical student. A lady losing hair in the Scalp for a woman can be disastrous from the family point of view in the Indian society. And of course, this girl who lost her hair in the young age of 10 because of some fibrosing disease, which has been restored, and the way she smiles tells you how much of confidence she's gained back. A few examples where a hair transplant can make a big change. Somebody with one sitting, as you see on the top, is a bald guy, and on the top right, after one sitting, on the bottom left, the second sitting, and the bottom right, the third sitting. And it's a huge change. He looks very different. I don't know whether the video will play, yet it's playing, fortunately. So that the guy was fully bald there in the top. Almost everything covered after 3 surgeries of hair transplant. Almost fully covered except a small patch of the back. And the beauty of the procedure is that after 3 sittings, if you look at the donor area, it will be difficult to find a scar because it's done well by the technique of trichophytic closure. The scar is almost indiscernible. His wife even can't find a scar after 3 sittings of a hair transplant. So good is the result of good surgical technique. Of course, my team, I'm grateful to them. The people working with me for 15 years, 20 years, 12 years, all of them stayed with me for so long. And it's for them that we've been able to produce such results. Don't be surprised. These 2 guys in the photograph you're seeing, Achhe Din and Udhar Wale Din, they both have had a hair transplant. Both the prime ministers from across the border have also benefited from a hair transplant, like many commoners and film stars and whatever not. And I think the adage to be able to do a good hair transplant surgery, I'm fortunate to be close to cricketers, and I met Greg Chappell, who is not the most popular guy in Calcutta from where I hail because of his stiffest sort of Ganguly. But what he said was so very true, that success is not by chance, but a matter of choice. Success is not by chance, but a matter of choice. And to be a good surgeon, or be a good hair transplant surgeon, or be good in any field of life, you've got to make a choice to be the best or be successful, to do it, and not that it's going to come by chance. To come back to my topic of Achhe Din Kab Aayenge, there's so many hurdles and pitfalls in the cosmetic surgery industry today that one wonders how these will be tackled and who will tackle them and when will they be tackled for us to be able to find good cosmetic surgery healthcare provided to the patient. There are a couple of speakers before me who spoke very beautifully about the need of revamping our system, about the need of getting more and more of technology involved into medicine, and of course the tire system is so very important to be able to successfully deliver good health care to our patients. The biggest hurdle probably in the cosmetic surgery industry is the rampant presence of untrained personnel doing different procedures. I'll elaborate that in a minute. There's of course the other big hurdle of misleading advertisement, and there's unproven procedures which are being sold and making a fool of patients with false promises, the business houses who are just there to make a quick buck or two, and the burden of the service tax which has come in recently for the last 5-6 years in cosmetic surgery. Talking about the absence or the presence of untrained professionals or untrained personnel doing so much cosmetic surgery, well, there's so many non-qualified people who are doing different procedures. And there's nobody to look into that. There's nobody to check them. In recent years, this has become so very rampant that it's been difficult to actually control as to who's going to do what. And the presence of these not being controlled by anybody, not even the MCI, is a big cause for concern, because you do not know who's going to take care of them and who's going to stop them from doing all this which is wrong. There are Ayurveds, homeopaths, and different specialities which is not under MCI. I recently had a talk with the ethical committee chairman of MCI, Dr. Rajendra Yadav in Delhi. There was actually a conference and there was a symposium on misleading advertisement. And Dr. P.K. Talwar, who was the ex-chairman of the MCI, but they say that it's not under our domain, so we can't do anything. So somebody who's not an MBBS, is not on an MCI, cannot be controlled by MCI, and you don't know who's going to look after them. And the problem here is because there's inadequate training. Because there's no training and there's no particular degree which tells you that so-and-so can do this, so anybody is doing anything. You learn a couple of tricks from somebody and then start practicing it under your own banner, and nobody can stop you. And the medical curriculum, unfortunately, does not have them in their domain. This absence of proper training facilities is one big reason why people go anywhere and everywhere to any Tom, Dick and Harry, learn a few things and start practicing with their own signboard, and this cannot be stopped. And aesthetic medicine is very in demand nowadays because it's the need of the hour. People want it. They don't know where to go, don't know whom to go to. And if somebody advertises something wrong, they go to those people who are not qualified, who don't have their qualifications on the letterhead or the nameplate, get them done, and later understand that they've been cheated. This huge danger of unqualified personnel providing aesthetic services is now becoming more and more rampant all over the country. In fact, there are a number of groups of technicians who are running around in Ahmedabad, in Mumbai, in Delhi and other places who say that we know hair transplant surgery. They'll go to any general practitioner or somebody who doesn't know anything about hair transplant, maybe a gynecologist, and say, you get a patient, we'll do the surgery, you pay us so much, the rest you keep. And the doctor again falls into a trap, gets the patient, say, okay, we'll get it done for you. And these untrained people are doing the surgical procedure, many times doing it totally wrong or being harmful to the patient paying money without really having a benefit from it. But, well, they're thriving because there is no particular institution or body or authority to stop this from happening. So these unlicensed people, they are without any supervision, they are rampant in various places, anybody can do anything and everything, nobody's to stop them, and the hair transplant industry actually is suffering a lot for all these things that are happening. And nowadays dentists, urologists, gynecologists, orthopedics, dermatologists, anybody and everybody is doing hair transplant. They're saying FU is very good, people don't know what's FU and FUT, and so a lot of things are going wrong. In fact, you might have heard recently there was a medical student who had a death after a hair transplant. Now, hair transplant was not really the direct cause of death of that patient, but it was one of the factors that led to that particular episode. And you've heard, of course, of other people similarly going and doing things in the same way which have not been right. We had a meeting recently of the national secretaries of the International Society of Aesthetic Plastic Surgeons in Kyoto. Now, I happen to be the National Secretary of India, and there's a big debate and discussion on how to stop this untrained professionals from doing these procedures. And very, very interesting, it was found out that the only country which has been able to make a legislation and stop anybody from doing anything and every other surgery is France. It happened in the early 2000s, where the doctors got a few patients who were very unhappy with certain procedures to go to the consumer forum. The consumer forum approached the Ministry of Health. The Ministry of Health discussed that debate about various procedures, not only cosmetic surgery, but say gynecology, orthopedics, and other procedures, spinal surgery, infertility, and then passed a law that so-and-so qualified personnel can only do this particular surgical procedure. And it's being very well implemented in France. I do not know when will it be implemented in India. I do not know who will implement it in India, whether it's going to be the MCI or it's going to be the Health Ministry or what, I don't really know. But it has to be done someday to protect our patients, the general public, from being repeatedly ruined or massacred by these untrained personnel, whether it's the MCI, which I think unfortunately is a little toothless, the Ministry of Health, where it is the center of the state who looks into this, I don't know. But somebody will have to come up, the judiciary or whatever, to solve this problem, make a rule, to make certain people eligible only to do certain procedures, and then only will this service stop and things will change. Otherwise, the country will remain the way it is, and अच्छे दिन तब कभी नहीं आएंगे. There's also a big bombardment of the general population with so many advertisements coming every day. Advertisements about various things, from hair to body to weight to etc. to pain. Your pain will vanish. We'll get you a male child. These again are so very misleading, and there's nobody to stop that. You see, there are so many advertisements on stem cell. Now recently MCI made a rule that by 31st December you have to submit a report as to whatever stem cells that you are doing, what is the result. There's so many advertisements on stem cell for hair, but would you believe that till date, after more than 35 years of research, not a single hair has grown on the scalp of a human being using stem cell. Not a single hair. And there are so many advertisements talking about stem cell for hair regrowth. Similarly, mesotherapy, lasers, all these are nothing but really humbugs which are taking people for a ride. Probably the only thing that works is PRP, but PRP again does not grow new hair. It improves the quality of the existing hair. See advertisements? This guy looks to have a lot of hair, but actually is wearing a wig. Somebody here talking about stem cell, regrowth of stem cell and plant stem cell and this stem cell, all humbug. Lose weight. If somebody could lose weight by going to a particular place for 1 month and lose 5 kilos, then nobody in this world would be fat. You could just enroll yourselves into the institutes and then lose 50 kilos in 10 months and become nice and slim. This is just an eye wash, but there is nobody to stop them. And what more can you say than this advertisement? Here shows an advertisement by a very well-known company of Virender Sehwag and Gautam Gambhir to have head full of hair. And there's a small inside photograph of Virender Sehwag who was bald before. So what is the photograph? That photograph says fully bald and he got back his hair. But the reality is that after 3 years of a hair transplant, Virender Sehwag is still very bald. For this photograph, if you see here, after he got a double hundred against the West Indies in, I think, 2009, his hair is very, very thin at the top. So how is that photograph showing so much hair of Virender Sehwag? Very simple. This lady comes to me with very thin hair and has to attend a marriage party and wants thick hair. So what do? There's a fiber available. Can you play this video? I don't know. There's a fiber available, and if you sprinkle that fiber, it can make you look nice and thick. The video is not playing, but so just after the fiber, this lady looks like this. So in a minute, the lady with very thin hair looks to have a head full of hair, and everybody thinks she's got a lot of hair. Same thing in the Sehwag. Sprinkle that fiber and take a photograph and tell people this is Sehwag after a hair transplant. Absolutely wrong. You are misleading the client. You are misleading the patient who thinks that this procedure has got him so much of hair, which is totally incorrect. Similarly, look at this picture. Gautam Gambhir was not happy with the hair transplant he got in that particular place, and he's gone to this company. And Gautam Gambhir's got a lot of hair. He was thin-haired, and then he became thicker and thicker. Now he's got so much of hair. But this Gautam Gambhir, from that to here, well, he's been after my life for having a hair transplant the last 10, 12 years, actually is wearing a wig. The ad talks everything about hair transplant and blah, 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 back, but he is wearing a wig. Nobody knows he's wearing a wig. So you think that this company, if I go to, will get a hair transplant result like Gautam Gambhir, so much of hair in one shot. Nobody said he's wearing a wig. Again, this is fooling the client. These things have to be stopped. You see, you've got to stop all this wrong advertisement, which is giving a lot of wrong information to people, and you have to get it somehow or the other approved by the right authorities before being published. There are a lot of words being used like permanent results, FDA approved. These have no meaning whatsoever. So the important point to be stressed out here is that these things have to be regulated by somebody or the other, where things will be cut short. And the internet is such a big medium for information, as our secretary from the health department is saying. It also is a great misleading medium for information, because there are so many blogs that can write anything. Anybody can advise anything, and you can put in a bad word about somebody or some big words about somebody and mislead you. So I tell my patients, whenever you want to see a website, go to the website of an association, a federation. There are thousands of doctors. They will give you right information. They will not tell lies. Looking at a blog or looking at some individual's website can be very, very misleading and wrong. And you must have a regulatory body to look after this advertising. See, I have a clinic in Dubai for the last 9 years. You cannot put an advertisement in Dubai or in the UAE without getting approved by the Dubai Health Authority. You want an ad or you want a particular page on a website running, you first give it to the DHA, they will say it's okay, then only you can give it in the papers. Then only you can put it on in the net. If not, it is blocked. You cannot use that. Something like that has to be done here. Who is going to do it, I don't know. The Standard Advertising Council tries and does things at times, but has limitations. Ministry of Health says it's the MCI. MCI says I can't do anything, and this is still going on rampantly. And again, if you want Achhe Din to come, you'll have to stop this menace. Advertising in health is not like selling a toothpaste or a garment. It is affecting the person's personal health directly and has to be regulated in order to be able to stop this. I actually submitted a memorandum to the health minister last year and forwarded up. There were a couple of meetings, but unfortunately nothing has happened. Being the president of the Hair Association earlier and the president of the Aesthetic Association, I did that. Meetings are fine, but action is needed to be able to produce some change in our system. The other big menace which is affecting the aesthetic surgery industry today is service tax. Service tax began with 10.3% way back in 2010, then became 14.3%, now it is 15%, GST may make it 18%. It's a big burden for many people. It's a stumbling block for the industry. Not everybody who undergoes cosmetic surgery is a rich man, and not everybody who undergoes cosmetic surgery does it for vanity. It actually was introduced in the USA a while ago and stopped very, very soon because they said it's not right. You must understand that every branch of medicine has an allied surgical branch. Cardiology, cardiothoracic surgery. Neurology, neurosurgery. Urology, urosurgery. Psychiatry, the surgical branch of psychiatry actually is cosmetic surgery. It's a surgery of the mind. It's a surgery to make you feel better, feel happier. 70% of people I've been practicing cosmetic surgery more than 20 years now, and 70% of people are actually middle class people. They feel depressed with their problem. They don't want to go outdoors. They don't want to meet society, to mingle in society. They've got withdrawn. Many times guys don't go to school. And these are reasons they go for cosmetic surgery. This is not only for vanity. The government has to understand this. They have to realize that it is not only for vanity that they are undergoing this procedure. Like this guy, 20-year-old guy with boobs like a female, he can't wear a t-shirt, he can't go to the gym, he can't go for a swim. People joke with him, his friends, well, they funnel him. It's embarrassing. He feels so different. He feels he's an outcast in society. Or this girl, trying to get married, not getting married because she has a flat nose. These are not procedures done for vanity. So many people, young guy not going to college who's 22, a young guy who's 23 who lost his hair and looks like a grandfather and people call him Dadu. A young girl who's lost her hair, a woman who's 35 and is the end of all sarcasm on her because she's lost her hair in the family. This is not for vanity. It is a necessity for these people. It is necessary for getting them back to on their heels, on their legs. It's essential for them to get them back into the stream of normal life and society. And I think the added 15% of service tax again is a big burden for them, for they're not coming from the rich class or film stars or industrialists or big businessmen who can afford that 15% whenever and wherever. And probably the government will do a good thing. We have appealed to them to withdraw this service tax of 15%, which will be very useful. So with these thoughts of maybe still a stumbling block of service tax being removed and these shortcomings being corrected, which will help the majority of people, I would like to end by telling you and opening your thoughts to this huge debate which exists today about cosmetic surgery, necessity of cosmetic surgery, and who's going to now give us justice. Who's going to verify and stop such false, unethical claims and practices by personnel who are not trained, by advertisements which is not true, to be able to save the general masses and the public. We've had a lot of talk, a lot of discussion. We've talked a lot of things over a number of years of various topics which I don't want to talk about once again. But all these needs serious pondering, serious thought. I have discussed and brought it to you. The aim of cosmetic surgery is to have people like this where the patient come back and tell you, I've got a brand new body. She's so happy. This girl from 91 kilos with a couple of procedures come down to 65 and saved a man's life. Or somebody like this. The smile makes you feel that you've been able to do justice to the procedure, and happy to be able to give happiness to these people by doing cosmetic surgery. I think I've shared my views, my thoughts. It's my request to this audience. Many of them are in good positions to be able to discuss and maybe formulate an idea. Let's not only confine ourselves to mere discussion, we need implementation. My thanks to the jury for having invited me and having awarded me, and of course to all of you for a patient listening. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.